It would seem that both my parents at some point in their lives lost their original birth certificates. I know what happened to my original birth certificate. I tore it to shreds when I was 16. I wish I hadn't, because I assumed that was the original, and I now can't get the original, as there are 2 alterations to that, and you're not allowed the original once it's been altered. You can only get the alteration. My father ordered a copy of his birth certificate, well, at least he obtained a copy of his birth certificate, on the 15th of February 1949, which was around the time that he went to Australia. That does seem to indicate, of course, that he went under his real name. But what I don't think I have said so far is that not only can I not find a record of my mother coming back in her real name, I can't find a record of my father or brother coming back in their real names, but I can find something very, very close. My mother ordered a copy of her birth certificate, or obtained a copy of her birth certificate, on the 22nd of January 1953. I should show these. And that would seem to indicate that she got it in order to return from Australia. Which seems a little odd to me, because even if her passport had run out, last I knew then, you only had to produce the old passport to get a new one. Yeah, 15th. Oh dear, oh dear. 15th February 1949. That's my father's. You can see it right down at the bottom there somewhere, the date he actually got it. And my mother, you see the date again, of course, is at the bottom, 22nd of January 53, that she got the copy of hers. So you would think that was in order to come back from Australia and all above board in some way at least. What I haven't mentioned, well, there are many, many, many things I haven't mentioned, whereas I've repeated myself endlessly about certain topics. The only entry I could find that looked remotely like my father and brother, read like this. That was how it was entered. Unfortunately, I haven't recorded the ship or anything else, or at least if I have, I can't find the record. It was written like that. So you couldn't really tell whether it was one person or 2 people or even 3 people. It could have been Desmond and Michael and Edward O'Kelly. And of course O'Kelly is not Oakley, but it's close, isn't it? And in fact Oakley could be, it could mean in the lee of an oak, or it it's a name which could be derived from O'Kelly. My father always used to joke about an Irish connection. But there was more to that, and that's a man called Thomas William Montgomery. Right, I then said that it was a mistranscription, and that one of these people, so it must have made it clear at some point that this entry was more than one person. One was 37, it seems, which arrived from Rio de Janeiro on the 25th of February 1954. Proposed address, 3 Sloane Gardens, London, 5.9 miles from my great-aunts and 12 miles from Enid. So I was very curious about that one, very suspicious. And I don't think I was wrong either, to be. I don't think I was wrong, because eventually I found records of these 2 deaths. Much later, obviously. One was Desmond Michael P. O'Kelly, and granted the P is missing from that entry. And he was born on the 27th of February 1916 in Croydon. This would make him almost exactly the same age as my father, well, just over a month in it. It interests me that he was born in Croydon because Croydon was where my father lived for most of the 19 years he was in London. And a huge amount went on in Croydon. A huge, huge amount connected with my father went on in Croydon, so that interests me. He died in 1996, May. And the only other entry that could be this man who came in from Rio de Janeiro is Edward Desmond Michael O'Kelly, born on the 12th of February 1917, so just over a year younger than my father. Now, he was born in Eton. Eton interests me because it's extremely close to Windsor, for one thing. And Amelia Noyes, whom I have mentioned, died in Eton. Windsor and Eton do come up a huge amount, also in the research that I've done. Both of them died in 1996. One in the January, one in the May. And they are the only two people I can see who could have been that man arriving from Rio de Janeiro, if it was one man. But that's not the only reason that the entry interests me. Well, of course, Rio de Janeiro interests me because Olive and Phyllis Oakley departed. I mustn't get my geography of South America mixed up. Departed from Buenos Aires via Rio de Janeiro, i.e. same place. Coming back to Eton and Amelia Noyes, who died at Eton, and who was the mother of Albert, the baby who died in 1946, or on paper was the mother of Albert, who died in 1946. Her second child was called Robert Edward. So I have there on this one entry my father's name, my known brother's name, and the second half of Robert Edward. And lo and behold, one of the men, as I say, who could have been this person, died where was born where Amelia Noyes died. It's all a bit complicated, to say the least. But all of these people passed through Rio de Janeiro en route back to England. And I suppose it's fairly well known that an awful lot of Nazis went to South America post-World War II. And my father had actually said to me on a number of occasions that he'd wanted to go to South America, but Romy wouldn't have it. Quite surprised to find that my mother ever put her foot down about anything. But that was apparently the reason that they went to Australia, not South America, because my mother wouldn't go to South America. Don't know if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, it's 9 minutes worth of nothing.